You guys, I feel like this is the same thing I said the last, what, 3 days or so? But it has been dark, stormy, windy, cold, blustery, gray. I love it so much. The weather has been amazing. Can you hear it? Not sure if you can hear it with just my phone, but lovely, so lovely. All right. Hey guys, it's Heather the Crochet Witch. How are you guys doing today? Welcome to day 19 of Vlogtober. That means 13 days of Halloween is starting today. I know in the countdown, I'm pretty sure, was it 12 or 13 days left when I did my countdown? You guys would know. But either way, like if it said 12, that means I probably wasn't counting the day of Halloween, because I tend to do that. But there's 13 days including Halloween left in the month. So I have the first package from Courtney at Fiber Fox Studios. Hi Courtney, by the way. We're doing 13 days of Halloween gift exchange. And this is what I was so excited to show you guys. Look at the way she numbered these. Like, this is obviously 11 from Stranger Things. And then, so she has the different characters that she found, and she wrote the numbers of the gift in their facial area. I thought that was so cool. I really geeked out about that. I am going to hurry up and get started with everything though, because I'm doing the monster machine type balls with little cutesy prizes that I started doing. I have the gift exchange with Courtney, which, by the way, her channel will be linked down below. If for some reason you know my channel and not hers, go check hers out. Give her Yarny love, subscribe to her, of course, because I also sent her a package with 13 gifts, so you can see what it is that I got her. I feel like I'm not a good wrapper or gift giver, so we'll see if she likes the things that I got her, but here's hoping. And then I still have my Stranger Things theories in my notebook to discuss. I still have my notes for Creepy Story Day or Story Time, I mean, and I have the Yarny Advent Calendar, which is, you guessed it, Stranger Things themed. So let's get started. Got my Eddie shirt on today, by the way. Let's start by picking one of these guys out. There's one for each day left. We got another Gremlins. I don't know why I shake them every single time. Let's see what we got. And so I mentioned before that all these are very similar in the things that you get from them, but obviously with each theme they're different. So this is the eraser for the day, and it's got Gizmo in his little toy car. Do you remember that from the movies? So cute. It is so cute. But I am going to be dead set on erasers for a good long while. So I don't even use them that often, but I mean, I'll use these, or I'll give them to somebody who wants them. One or the other. So we got that done. Let's see, what should we do next? Let's do the Stranger Things theories, and then I will go to my Courtney exchange, and then the Yarny one, and then Creepy Story Time, because I know Creepy Story Time is going to be a good minute, since, like, if you guys do not want to finish watching that, that's fine. I mean, I'd like you to. I did a lot of research on my subjects, but if you don't, like, it's okay. But maybe you should take this time to grab a drink or a snack or a project to work on and settle in, because you know I can talk Stranger Things for a minute, but I am going to try to okay, so the Stranger Things theory for today, I will read it to you, tell you my thoughts, viewpoints, whatever on it, and then I totally love when you guys write down below in the comments, like, your thoughts on it, whether you agree or disagree. Anything that you care to share with the class about it would be totally fine. And some of these are like stuff I've gotten off the internet that are like a more widely known thing or widely talked about thing, and some of these are like my own, like, predictions or whatevers. So let's see here. I'll try to do a quick one. I think this might be, it's not that when I wrote them down, it wasn't a repeat, but I feel like I also talked about this the other day. So I'm just going to do this one today, and it'll be quicker, I think, too, because like I said, it'll just be kind of revisiting something that I did talk about in a different theory portion. So the theory is that Max isn't brain dead, like some people think she's brain dead right now because of Vecna killing her and 11 saving her, but really only saving like the shell of her. Because when Elle went to visit her, it was just like blackness. There was no Max there. So like her personality wasn't there. Her memories weren't there. So people have interpreted that as like she's basically brain dead and she's just being kept alive basically by 11 and her powers. But the theory is Max isn't brain dead, but her mind is trapped with Vecna. Which, when I wrote that down, that was only like number 11 in my list. And then I moved on to some other things. So like I said, I did forget and kind of cover that already. But I personally think, if I didn't fully say this last time, I personally think that is what's going on. I think that Max is the only like victim of Vecna who did get killed, did get taken. Her purpose is being served, meaning like somewhere there is a big nasty like Vecna vine tree with Max on it, because her, like everyone else, her personality, her memories and everything are bound to Vecna. But it just so happens that 11 was there to save the shell of her body too. So both are existing. But I do think that Max can't be, her personality and memories and all that can't be in both places. It didn't get like split in two or copied or anything. Max, as like the things that make Max, her memories, her thoughts, her personality, those things are with Vecna, just like the other victims are. But she's still breathing and all that stuff. Like it has brain activity in our real world in Hawkins, right? So I think that that's completely what is happening right now. There's different theories on whether she'll help the group from her position or whether she'll basically need to be saved, or whether they'll, make some big climactic thing and let her die. Hopefully not. I really love Max a lot. But I do think that is exactly what is going on. I think that by all accounts, she seems brain dead. She seems like a vegetable, basically, being kept up alive with like, I don't think she was on life support. She was just in traction, like her body. So not vegetable status. But I think that her body is functioning on its own as far as like breathing and blood pumping and all that. So she's technically alive without the artificial support. But mind-wise, she's just like normal world human beings think that she's just kind of like asleep or in a coma, but living on her own. And what we know is her body is, but her mind is elsewhere. So I think that's what's going on personally. But what do you guys think? What do you think? Do you think she's even brain dead? Like, one other theory, I guess, could be, like, I just thought of this, but maybe Vecna is basically, like, shielding Max. Maybe she is there, but he's shielding, like, 11 from her, or shielding her from other people, which would really just be 11, like, unless, like, Kali comes back, or unless they find another test subject to do these things, to jump into people's memories and stuff, or unless Brenner does have powers and is alive and comes back to do the same thing, which I doubt they're going to bring him back to do that. I think he has powers and I think he could, but I doubt they're going to bring him back to do that. But maybe Vecna's just basically put up a wall and is shielding her. That's a possibility too. I still don't think that's it. I think he's got her. I think she is not in her body. She is there, is what I think. But what do you guys think? Just curious. So what did I say I would do next? I did the monster. I did the Stranger Things. Oh, so let us do the gift exchange with Courtney. So today is day 1, and I already showed you that is got an awesome little 11 gift tag for number 1. And it's in this beautiful purple paper. My favorite. I love it. Let's get the crinkly out of the way. She said she's not a good wrapper, by the way. Lies. Like, I did just do this myself, but like, this is wrapped really well. Thank you very much, Courtney. I don't know why I'm not the person that saves gift wrap or anything like that, but like, I always open it up so like gently. Like, I'm not just the person either that, well, I just tore it, but I'm not the person either that is usually like, and just flinging paper open. So here's what we got. What is this? Rachel Zoe kitchen towels. Oh God, that's beautiful. Set of 2 kitchen towels. Look at that, you guys. That is so pretty. Look at the witch and her little broomstick. The broomstick is like 3D. And there's like silver accent on things. Like here, the moon is outlined in silver. I don't know how well you can see the shiny. But, oh, that is just beautiful with the haunted house scene and the big spooky tree. And there's the witch again. And oh, she's got a little bat too. That's so pretty. Oh, and I didn't even notice this at first. The bottom has got like a little, like almost little pom-poms. Isn't that cute? And then it comes paired with a second. Oh, and this is like a starry night kind of look. It looks like back here. And then it comes paired. This also has like little pom-pom frills down here. And then beautiful spider. This is very bougie, very classy. So thank you so much, Courtney. I absolutely love it. They say they are 20 by 28 inch set of 2 kitchen towels. Thank you so much. I love these. So remember, if you guys want to see what I got Courtney, and she definitely got me a better day 1 prize. Definitely. Prize. Gift. I was thinking about prizes and anyway. She definitely beat me out. But if you're interested in what I got her anyway, go check her channel out. She will be linked down below for the rest of the month. And yeah, thank you again, Courtney. I love it so much. Then, sorry, I'm trying to keep it moving because I'm well aware that I talk a lot. And I know you guys don't know yet, unless you see the length of the video, but I know that creepy story time is going to take a minute. So, on to this lovely... I put them in a little basket. Each one is, if you are not familiar with advent calendars, each one of these is presumably a little mini skein. I know I ordered it in DK Superwash Merino wool. So that is the kind I got because I figured that way I can then mix and match with my other advent calendar from last year and with the one coming from Christmas. I'm just getting them all in DKs instead of like fingering weight. So today is day 1. They're all wrapped in these pretty purple and white stripe packages. And I haven't looked ahead and I haven't gotten an advent from this particular seller, but I did get it off of Etsy if I can find it because they had taken down the listing like Etsy did, period, because it was Stranger Things. If I can find it, I will link it down below. If not, I will make a note for sure for Vlogmas because I got the same seller did a Christmas calendar. So I did get like both of mine this year are from her. So if I don't find the listing, I will make sure that I show you the shop name for Christmas time. But it is from the same, just so you know. So I have not bought these before from her. I haven't opened them, obviously. So I don't know if each one is going to have like a little tag for the inspiration. Because, you know, the mystery yarn club that I'm getting that has 4 months worth of yarn in it, it has the name, but the name's very vague. It isn't like my last year's Vlogmas had like, it said like Jonathan or Hopper or, you know, whatever on it. So I don't know what this one's going to look like, but let's find out together. I'll even let you guys have first look if I can. So let's open it up here. And if you guys want to check that out, I see some dark colors. Let's see, is there there's no tag on it. No tag? I'm just double checking to make sure. Okay, so here is the yarn that we got. And it has like this pretty black striping here, like a dark gray / black striping. There are, I don't know if my camera's picking it up with the light or if it's washing it out, but like right in here are little like green sprinkles. So the color green reminds me of the greenish yellow being sprinkled on like that reminds me a lot of like a Demogorgon or a Demodog, really kind of colors. It's really pretty. I don't know the inspiration. I guess we're gonna guess at this one, like on this calendar. But yeah, so that is the first one. And what do you guys think is the inspiration behind this, I guess, is the question. I would guess, like I said, the green, I could see kind of Demodogish or Demogorgonish. The black and white, because the upside down wasn't black and white really, right? It was like reds and blues and depending on where you were at in the upside down. But I suppose it could be. Maybe like the forest was kind of like a dingy, dark, kind of grayish forest. So perhaps this is just inspired by the upside down. What are your thoughts? What is the first thing that makes that you think of, especially like if you can see those green dots there now. So what do you guys think? And if I look her up and find it, I will try to see if maybe she has a Facebook page or something like that that reveals it, because now that today is the day, it should, like, I would think that she would release like what they were if that's what she's doing at all. So if there is an answer to be had, I will let you guys know. But otherwise, I think maybe we should name these. You think? So I'm going to open that suggestion up. Like, what do you guys think? You Stranger Things fans, because this is a Stranger Things advent calendar. So that being said, what do you guys think is the inspiration behind this? Should we call this upside down? Should we call it Demodog? I'm not really sure. Should we call it vines? Remember the vine burning? So it'd be like the black charred vines, but yet the upside down and the Demogorgons and stuff had this like green splotchy color. Vine burning or vines? Maybe. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think? Let me know. Like the gray in a way reminds me of Papa's suit. Maybe. What about Hawkins' lab? Because they had the portal in the basement of the lab. They had the vines that were growing from it. And it was kind of like upside downish, starting like the atmosphere was turning upside downish when Hopper broke into the lab in season 1. Do you remember that? But yet it's dark and gray and would remind me of like Brenner's suit or just the dark abyss kind of atmosphere. Maybe Hawkins' lab. Like, I'll let you know if I know. Otherwise, I am open to suggestion. And maybe if I don't find an answer, maybe I will put a tag on with that name on here, and we'll just we'll name it ourselves. All right. So that is what I got today. And let me put it in its bag. It's opened bag, but bag nonetheless. And then set that there. And then we're going to move on to story time. Look at that. Not even 20 minutes for everything. I think I'm moving along quite well. Thank you. So today's creepy story time. Now, if you've been around for the month of October, I have been doing a creepy story time that can cover a wide variety of subjects, right? We've had some legendary creatures, some cryptids and such, if you will. We have had serial killers. We have had cults, so true life kind of stuff. We've had ghost stories, both mine and my friends' ghost stories, experiences with the paranormal. We've had all sorts of stuff, right? So today is going to be another like true story, and it is going to be on a serial killer, but it's going to be on a very mysterious serial killer. So today, have you guys heard of it's an older murder spree, but have you guys heard of the Zodiac Killer? Because that's who I decided to like feature today. The Zodiac killings were called, I'm just going to jump right into it, were called the most famous unsolved murder case in U.S. history, by the way. It has to this day never been solved. The Zodiac Killer could be out there. The Zodiac Killer could be deceased. The Zodiac Killer could be in prison. The Zodiac Killer could be just inactive and has gotten his murderous ways out. Maybe he has learned the error of his ways, was thankful he didn't get caught, and is living in a peaceful retirement home somewhere in Florida. Like, who knows, right? This did not happen in Florida. I just pulled that out of thin air. But actually, this happened in Northern California, and it took place in the late 1960s, like 68 and 69 is when the murders that we know happened. There were other suspected murders that he was like linked to, but we'll talk about that in a little bit here. What we do know is that he killed 5 victims that we know of from December of 1968 to October of 1969. The crimes took place in, I don't know if I'm going to say this right, but Benicia, 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 Vallejo, Napa County, and San Francisco in California. Although Zodiac himself, in later letters, which we will also get into, he claimed to have murdered 37 people, and he has been suspected and linked to being involved in several cold cases from Southern California and from outside the state of California as well. Those have never been proven. He's just been like linked. He's been like, people have been like, oh, maybe that was also the Zodiac, you know, because they're cold cases. We haven't solved those either. The Zodiac named himself from a series of letters that he sent taunting the police. The letters were sent to local papers threatening to go on killing sprees or threatening bombings of some sort unless they were printed. And some of these letters included ciphers. He sent 4 ciphers in total. And to this day, like he claimed that if you decoded the cipher, that you would find out his identity and then his game would be over, basically. But to this day, 2 of the ciphers have never been solved. And one of the 2 solved ones wasn't cracked until 2020. So really, back in the day, only one of these was deciphered then. And when that one and when the 2020 one was cipher decoded, whatever you want to call it, both of them had pretty noticeable like spelling errors in them. Like whoever wrote it had probably written out their message to begin with and then put it into code. And when their message was written out to begin with, they were already misspelled. But that would make it harder also to crack the code, right? Because then you really don't know what letters are what if the words are misspelled. Like you don't know what word you're trying to get to link the codes to letters. So I imagine that did not help. I don't know if the Zodiac did that on purpose or if it was like a happy mistake on his part. Not happy for us, but happy for him. Who knows? But so the Zodiac's last correspondence was in 1974 because he did go back and forth with the police and with newspapers, like wanting his stuff published and saying that he would identify himself and all that. But the last like letter or card or any phone calls or anything, the last of that happened in 1974. Although the San Francisco Police Department didn't mark it as an inactive case until April of 2004. And that's because they started getting like overwhelmed with cold cases, et cetera, et cetera. But then it was reopened again in March of 2007. So it is still, as far as I know, still an ongoing case that had only been kind of put on the back burner for a few years, for 3 years, basically. Because there's such a mystery about this, right? So the victims as we know them, I wrote notes, hold on. One moment. Okay, on December 20th, 1968 is when the first set of victims was targeted. They were David Faraday, who was only 17, and Betty Lou Jensen, who was only 16. They were both shot and killed that was in Benicia, California. Now, they were on their first date. They were parked at a well-known makeout spot, which was like a turnaround type of thing at the end of a road. When a car pulled up beside them, and the theory is that the other driver, because you could tell, I believe that was the one they saw like the tracks and they put together what happened. But they think that the killer pulled up in this car next to them, got out, and just started shooting. So they were both shot and killed that day. Then, so that was December 20th, 1968. He kind of went into a period of non-activity unless he was in some other area, unless he was committing some other crimes that we didn't know about, some other murders even. But since he was pretty big, especially at the beginning, for taking credit for the stuff that he did, one would assume he wasn't doing anything. Like maybe his first killing, he got his rush from it and then laid low for a while to see if he was, he wanted to make sure his tracks were covered. He wanted to make sure, like, he was probably smarter than some criminals, and he didn't just go on some big spree that he couldn't control. It was controlled, it was calculated, it was that, and that alone is creepy, but he kind of like laid low, was quiet from December of 68 to July 4th of 69. So that's what, like 6 months or something like that? 6 months? When 4 miles, nope, we will get into that in a second. When the second set of victims were targeted, they were Michael Mageau, who was 19 years old, and Darlene Ferrin, who was 22 years old. They were at a park, the parking lot of a park in Vallejo, in Vallejo, California. That happened on July 4th. On July 5th, the murders took place on July 4th. They took place 4 miles from the first set of murders. And then on July 5th, a man called the Vallejo Police Department claiming responsibility for them and for the first set of murders. The police were able to trace the call, and they traced it to a phone booth that was located between the two sites. So he was staying fairly local, like in a triangulated area, but they did not make it there in time to catch him. Now, Darlene was shot and killed, and Michael managed to miraculously live and recover eventually from being shot. He was able to describe this guy. He described him as somewhere between 26 and 30 years old. He described him as a white man around 5'8", who was probably around 195 to 200 pounds, with short, light brown, curly hair. So that was his description of the man who approached them. At the time, he hadn't yet gotten, I'll get to it, what he wore later, but he hadn't yet got to his like full attire. He hadn't even like named himself yet, right? So that was in July of 69. Then he kind of like laid low again. Either that or he was doing some other crimes, but again, he didn't take credit for anything in between these two times. So the next set of victims was in Lake Berryessa in Napa County, California. They were 20-year-old Brian Hartnell and his girlfriend, 22-year-old Cecilia Shepard. This is the one who... I'm sorry. Yes, this happened, but let me backtrack. I forgot a series of things that had happened because, okay, so the second set of murders with the victim that lived was in July of 1969. The third set that I just started mentioning happened on September 27th, so it had been a few more months. But in between there, on August 1st of 1969, there were 3 letters sent out to different local papers, like 3 different local papers, if I could talk. The letters had him taking credit for the incidents. I believe it was the first... No, it wasn't. He took credit for the incidents, and each letter had a third of a cipher in it, which the killer had claimed would lead to his identity. He threatened more killings would come if they weren't printed, and they were eventually printed. And then that was on August 1st. So on August 7th, another letter was sent out, another series of letters, but probably roughly the same letter. And in this letter, it was the first time that he did call himself the Zodiac. And he gave info because after the first cipher was sent out in 3 different parts, the police did make comments. Of course, the newspapers they went to the detectives on the case and they asked if they had a comment. And one of the police chiefs did say, for one of the counties, I can't remember which county, it might have been the Vallejo one. He did say that he wished that they could provide, that this person would provide more information and proof that they were the killer rather than just some letter and some game being published. So he called himself the Zodiac in this second letter, which was the response to the police officer. And he did give them some information that wasn't published, as well as another cipher that he said would lead to his identity. He said if they solved it, they would have him, is what he said. That happened on August 7th. Then on August 8th, a California couple had been taking a look at, in the newspapers following the case, and they felt like they cracked the code. So that was the code, the second code sent out, I believe. It contained a reference from a short story called The Most Dangerous Game, which was about a big game hunter. And even though the Zodiac said, "You will find out who I am if you solve this," no name appeared, although Zodiac did say that he actually wouldn't give his name because it would stop his collection, which was another reference to the big game hunter story. Then, now we'll get back to September 27th, when Brian Hartnell and Cecilia, his girlfriend Cecilia Shepard, were picnicking out at this lake, Lake Berry... It's a lot of notes. Lake Berryessa was the name of the place. So they were picnicking there. Sorry, I wanted to make sure that my voice lined up with my mouth, so I stopped the video and started it again, because I would not like that if the rest of the video was me talking and then my mouth moving 30 seconds later. I'm sure you guys would not love that either. Anyway, they were, so Hartnell and Shepard were on a picnic at the lake when a man walked. He basically had hiked from the road, all the way out. They saw him approaching. They thought it was kind of weird, but they were, they were on a date. They were enjoying themselves. They were having this picnic, and it was daylight, so it was nothing scary going on. And this man, as he started coming into view, they realized there was something off about him. He was wearing a long, a black executioner's hood. And where the eye holes are, he had sunglasses, so he was completely, shielded, covered up. They wouldn't be able to see, who was under this mask. He had I want to call it, a tabard, because it was, a long decorative shirt that he had obviously had drawn on himself. And this was the first time that the Zodiac symbol showed up, which kind of looked like a cross or a plus sign with a circle. It looked like crosshairs of a gun. That's what it looked like to me. But he was in this full attire, and he approached them, and he had a gun on him, which previously the other victims had been shot, both the living ones and the ones who were killed, right? But he just used his gun to basically threaten them. I told them, like, don't run or I'll shoot you, this and this and this. You need to cooperate. And he had brought with him some pre-cut, like, clothesline. And he told Shepherd, the girlfriend, to tie up her boyfriend. And once she had done that, he checked the binds and he found that she had done it pretty loosely. So he basically retaliated, pulls out a knife and starts stabbing her, and then stabs Hartnell, the boyfriend. He stabbed them repeatedly. He thought he had finished off the job, which I believe that Hartnell actually lived. Brian Hartnell, he was stabbed. He was stabbed 8 times in the back, and he still made it. He still lived. And this had happened on September 27th. But Cecilia, who had also gotten stabbed a lot, I didn't see how many times, but she got stabbed a lot too. She actually died from her wounds 2 days later. So on September 29th of 1969, she ended up being the 4th murdered person, 6th victim, however you want to look at it. And after he stabbed them, he just took a hike and walked back the way he had came. He walked 500 yards or so to the road where Hartnell was parked, and he took out a black felt tip pen and just started writing on his car door. And what he wrote was Vallejo, and then 12/20/68. So the date of the first murder, 7/4/69. So the date of the second murder, and then September. He wrote out September 27th, 69. So that day, 6:30, presumably the time that this happened, by knife. Those are the words that he wrote out. He basically was taking credit again for all 3 of the separate crimes, right? And that happened at 6:30 then. So by 7:40, he actually had made it to a new destination. And he called the Napa County Sheriff's Office to brag, to take credit for what he had just done. He said, I'd like to report a murder. And then he's like, no, make that a double murder, double homicide. They were able to trace this call also. They traced it to a payphone that was outside of the Napa County car wash. And the phone was even still off the hook. Like he, in a hurry, just left. The frustrating part is they were able to lift a fingerprint from it, but they didn't ever find a match. Okay? Very frustrating. So that had happened in September of 69. Then on October 13th in San Francisco, no, one moment. If I'm going to tell you the story, I want to tell you the story right. On October 11th in San Francisco, of 1969, there was a man who came and hailed a taxi. He rode a short distance in the cab and then had him, had him park and get out. He got out, or he was making to get out. Maybe I should put it that way. And instead of getting out, he pulled out a gun and he shot the taxi driver. He shot him and killed him. This poor man did die. His name was Paul Lee Stein, and he was 29 years old, and he was a taxi driver in the San Francisco area. Now, when he did this, there were actually witnesses. There was a group of, I believe, teenagers that were across the street and saw this going down. They heard the gunshot. They saw the aftermath struggle. I would imagine there would be one, unless, he got Paul right away. They saw him wiping the car down for prints, like any prints that he may have left behind, because of the newspapers and such. He knew that he was sloppy during the third set of murders, and he had left the fingerprint behind, right? So they saw him wiping down the car, and they went to a payphone immediately, and they called as the crime was happening. Now he didn't know this. He was still wiping down the car. He was cleaning up after himself. He took the time to cut the shirt tail off of the bloody shirt of the cab driver and put it in his pocket or whatever and take it with him. Some people think that since the cops like immediately reacted, right, and they sped over there right to when these teenagers were reporting this, some people think that he actually had gotten out of the car and pretty much just blended in and took off walking down the street with all this craziness starting to happen, like the fanfare starting to happen of the police arriving, the witnesses and all that stuff. And he just blended right in kind of like a chameleon and just left. I believe he actually did say later in a letter or whatever, or maybe a phone call, that he had actually talked to one of the police officers, because of course they're going to stop. Did you see anything? Have you seen anything going on? Did you see a man get out of this car? Did you see what happened? He talked to one of the police officers, according to him anyway. So he did get away though, obviously. And then, so if that happened on October 11th of 69, then October 13th of 1969, the San Francisco Chronicle received a letter from the Zodiac taking credit still. And this time, because the police had wanted like basically more evidence of like he was afraid they weren't going to be believing him again. He sent a scrap of the shirt that he cut off of the cab driver. He threatened to shoot a school bus full of kids. He said he could shoot out the front tires and then just pick off the kiddies as they came off the bus. So terrifying, of course. I'm sure a lot of people did not send their kids to school. I'm sure a lot of schools may have shut down or at least suspended like bus activity. There was a big uproar, obviously, when that was said. He never ended up doing that though. And on November 8th of 1969, Zodiac mailed out another cipher. This one is the one that wasn't decoded until 2020. But he sent that out with another scrap of the shirt. So he was making a trophy, making like proof that it was him, right? When the cipher was finally decoded, which remember was 50 years later, 51 years later almost, the cipher had said that he wasn't afraid of the gas chamber, which at the time of that being written was the way that California's like instead of like lethal injections or the electric chair, they had the gas chamber when people were put to death. And in a phone call, actually, he said he wouldn't reveal himself because he didn't want to get the gas chamber and spoil his killing spree, basically. But the cipher said he wasn't, he claimed he wasn't afraid of the gas chamber because it would deliver him to paradise, but no name was still ever given. So this man who kept saying, like, if you solve this, and then you'll have me, he never did give his name, which, I mean, he doesn't sound like he's stupid, right? So, like, he's basically taunting the police. But after the correspondences, like a few more letters or phone calls, kind of like taunting the police happened into the 1970. But after that, no more correspondences from the Zodiac, as we know of anyway, was ever heard from again. He could have been sent to prison. He could have been killed. He could have, again, just decided enough was enough, that he'd gotten away with everything that he'd gotten away with, so he might as well call it good, and he just blended into society. He could have done a lot of things. Like anything could have happened at that point, right? And we still don't know. None of us know anymore. And now the case has been going on for, like I said, like 50 some years. The chances, if he was already 30, he would be like 80 by now. So if he lived to this ripe old age of 80 something, things happen. I mean, there could be, dementia could have set in. Does he even remember that he's the killer? Does he feel like talking, or does he not feel the need to anymore to reach out and talk about it? Anything could, if that's even assuming he's still alive. Maybe he's a coma patient and something had happened to him along the way to the next killing spree, and he's been in a coma for who knows how long, or has amnesia, or it could be anything, you guys. He could be a reformed priest and never want to speak of the things that he did ever. Like, we don't know. We just don't know. And that's the creepy, horrible part, is that this man did get away with this. And he's, at one point was just living his life and could still be living his life. Before he was executed, I believe, it wouldn't have been after. So before he was executed, Ted Bundy was even suspected because, as being the Zodiac, because I believe just some of the things, like the locations and where Bundy had been located, were a possibility. Like he could have traveled to these places. But it really wasn't his MO to begin with. He was just like a suspect, and they did end up clearing him via that fingerprint that they had lifted from the payphone. So he was cleared of it. I mean, he obviously did some other awful things. Maybe we'll talk about him one day. That'll be a much longer video though. So that would probably be, like I said, after the beginning of the year, I might do like a crochet and crime type of video. Maybe I will do that. Maybe I will do Ted Bundy, because there's a lot of serial killers and real crime stories that I want to talk about, but I know that these go on long enough just for a Vlogtober type of thing. So maybe we'll talk about him at length later. There's probably other things with the Zodiac that I could end up telling you too. Like, I'm sure this was just like a kind of quick research. I had already known about Zodiac. So like a lot of the things that I found, I was like, oh yeah, mention that, it's enough to at least like get you started, get you knowledgeable with it. But it just amazes me that this man could still be at large. If he hasn't already passed away or been killed, he could still be out there. They had been hoping to lift DNA because thankfully, when these had been put in the cold case bin, none of the evidence got like destroyed or lost or anything. They still have like the letters that were sent. And back then you always sent them by, I suppose he could have moistened a towel, but generally licked them, or at least had him on his fingers when he was mailing them. And DNA really wasn't a thing back then. So likely he wasn't thinking twice about, let me put gloves on, let me wet this with a paper towel, let me, except for maybe like they could lift fingerprints. So maybe he wore gloves, maybe, but if he's licking the stamp, that's still DNA that they could get off the back of it. And a few years ago, they did want to, because there was another killer who was actually thought he was another like suspect. And I don't know if they ever ruled him out or not. I can't remember this part. But if you're familiar with the Golden Gate Killer, who was active in California, active around the same times, that man was not caught until he was an old man also, and he was caught by DNA. It was like an Ancestry.com type of, I don't know if it was specifically that site, but it was like that kind of site. And he was caught via matching DNA to relatives, and then the case got put together and they realized it was him. And yeah, so they were hoping to lift some DNA from these letters, or even from the shirt, maybe when he had cut the shirt off the guy, from some of the evidences anyway, and try to figure out who he was, even if he was long gone, like dead or whatever, or already convicted of something else and serving time. That's a possibility. they were going to try to figure it out. But as of 2020, I think the article I read did say as of this year, which is 2022, nothing had came back. So either they couldn't find the DNA, or don't want to reveal it, or it's super slow going. I'm pretty sure DNA doesn't take 2 years to process, but what do I know? Like, maybe it does in some cases. Maybe really old stuff has to be taken care of. I don't know. But nothing has come of that anyway that we know of yet. So that is the creepy tale of this unsolved murder spree of the Zodiac Killer. Movies have been made about it. Documentaries obviously have been made about it. So there's a lot of information out there about what little information we know. But yeah, have you guys heard of the Zodiac before? Yeah, just curious. All right, so I will let you go for now. And, I'll end it there because I have to get this video uploading and stuff. But once again, thank you again so much, Courtney. I really, 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 really love these towels so much. I know they're kitchen towels, but I think these are going to go in my bathroom and be like decorative towels. Like, just, they're beautiful. So thank you again so much. I love them. And I will talk to you guys again soon. I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. I love you guys. Bye.